Hey, what's going on YouTube? In this video, we're talking about accessories and upgrades to the DBX57 coming up. So first things first, I try and follow all the 4 basic safety rules to firearms. This firearm is unloaded, there's no ammunition in the magazines. So maybe you've seen some of the videos that I've done explaining why I've been selling my Kel-Tec firearms. Well, with the money that I've made from selling them, I have invested them into additional firearms, and the DBX57 is one of those. This is a unique little firearm. This is chambered in 5.7 by 28. This is the same cartridge as the PS90 takes from FN. I do have the PS90, it's SBR'd. It's a lot of fun, I really like the cartridge. This is really unique because it's really lightweight. It's only like 3.3 pounds or something like that. I didn't weigh it, but it is really light. It's really thin. The overall thickness is only like 1 inch thick when you don't count the charging handle sticking out. And that's why I put the optic that I did on here. Obviously this is not going to be like a super long range firearm, so I don't need a scope or something that I can see really long distance. So I wanted something small, compact, and lightweight. So I put a HoloSun 507C on here. The 507 has the dual reticle, so it can have the dot, the circle dot, or just the circle. I'm a really big fan of the circle dot reticle, so I am very happy with this sight. I think it fits perfect on this little guy. This is classified as a pistol, so I could not put a vertical grip on here, and I'm okay with that because I do like the Magpul angled foregrip on here. And again, even with that on there, it keeps it really narrow. I feel like I want to put a light on here, but I don't want something hanging off the side. It would either have to be on the bottom or on the top and keep it really narrow. The light would just be for funsies. I did put a rail cover up top here to give my thumb a place to rest when I grab it, because this is usually my grip like this. So I usually grab it like this. So those are the only 2 accessories that I installed right out of the box. I don't feel like it needs a lot as far as accessories goes. It does need something back here, and I'm either going to SBR it and put a Sig Sauer, the mini folding stock on there. I do have that stock. It's on my 300 Blackout at the moment. It may not stay on there, so it may end up going on here, obviously after I SBR it, Form 1 and SBR it. Or I might just wait until the ATF gets put back in its place because they're overstepping their bounds, and put a brace on here once they get smacked down. It came with what looks like the SL grip on here. I'm not sure exactly which grip it is, but it looks like I think it says the Mo-K. It's like the SL, except it doesn't have a back strap. I really like the SL grip, so I am perfectly fine with this one. So on to the upgrades. Some of the upgrades that I want to do to this. The magazine release is proprietary, so it's only on one side, so there's nothing we can do about that. So we can't make that ambi. The bolt catch, same thing. It is also proprietary. Can't do anything about that. It's only on one side. The bolt catch is really unique because it doesn't actually catch on the bolt. It actually catches on the piston. It operates above the bolt up in here, and it actually catches on I guess it's not the piston, it would be the push rod. This, if you don't know, this is a dual piston firearm. So it's got 2 pistons up in here and pushes on a push rod to cycle the bolt. the bolt catches on that push rod instead of the bolt. It does have a reciprocating charging handle, but because of the placement of the charging handle, I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. So like even if you were to shoulder this with your grip, with it cycling, it's not going to be an issue. It's not going to be anywhere close to your face. It's not going to be anywhere close to your hand. So the reciprocating charging handle won't be a problem. The dual pistons are adjustable. I believe they each have 3 positions, but you have to put them in the same position. So if you put them in setting 2, the other one has to be in setting 2, and so on. So if you put it in setting 1, you have to put the other one in setting 1. Now, from what I have seen, it might be a little bit challenging to put a suppressor on here, and that's because the barrel itself doesn't really have a shoulder. So you need a suppressor that has an internal shelf. I don't know what you would call that, but the barrel would have to hit that internal shelf to where it wouldn't just keep threading past. I think this would be an excellent suppressor host. I would do something like a dedicated suppressor that would be specifically to accept 5.7. It would probably be along the lines of a 22 suppressor, because your 5.56 suppressors are much bigger. I would like something small and lightweight. Okay, sorry, I got off track here. So back here, the rest of the parts on here, the safety, the trigger pins, the trigger, the grip, those are all AR-15. And so those are things that I am going to upgrade. The hammer pin is already sticking out a little bit on the left side here. The safety is mil-spec, so it's only on one side, and it's also 90 degree. I prefer 45 degree, I also prefer ambi. And the trigger in here. You may have heard me say that I am not much of a trigger snob in some of my other videos, but it doesn't mean I can't feel a bad trigger, and this trigger feels awful. There's a lot of creep. It's really heavy, and it just doesn't have a good break to it. It feels terrible. Would it work? It'll work just fine. But since I have it, I'm going to use it. I have an extra trigger. It came out of my 300 Blackout. Since my Virtus upper came with a trigger, I had a decent trigger out of that, and so we're gonna put that in this. The magazines it uses, it comes with 2 20-round magazines. These are FN magazines. These will work in an FN 5.7 pistol, which is the first downside that I can think of with this firearm. I wasn't planning on getting an FN 5.7 pistol. I was either between the Ruger or the Smith & Wesson, maybe the PSA Rock, but I'm not positive on that one. It's the Ruger or the Smith & Wesson are higher on my list and more likely than the PSA Rock. I also want to get the Ruger LC Carbine, which takes the same magazines as the Ruger 5.7. But this does not take the same magazines. So it would be kind of neat if Diamondback did offer this in other magazine options and not just the FN magazines. It would be cool if they had a model that accepted the Ruger magazines or the Smith & Wesson magazines. Now the nice thing with the FN is you can get longer magazines. This is a 29-round magazine for YouTube purposes. And that's how it looks with the longer magazine in it. But I guess that's my only gripe, if you want to call it that. Gripe might be a bit of a strong word. Feedback would be different magazine options would be nice. Just because I would rather get a Ruger or Smith & Wesson, because I could probably get both for the amount that one FN 5.7 pistol would cost. All right, and let's show you the accessories that I got and we're gonna be using to upgrade. All right, so we don't have to upgrade much in this. I'm going to install an Armaspec ST45. I've installed these in several of my builds. And which actually brings me to another point. Let's go off on a quick tangent. I don't buy too many ARs off from the shelf because of this. Because I'm gonna want to swap so many of the parts out. It usually makes more financial sense to build my ARs from the ground up. Obviously, this is not something that I can build, so we're left with swapping out some of the parts. Same thing with the Ruger SFAR. So we're gonna change out the safety, 45-degree ambidextrous, and we are going to change out the trigger. This is the Hyperfire EDT3. This has kind of like a pseudo flat face trigger on it. It's got a couple of different places that you can put your finger for consistency. And since we're changing out the trigger and we have a little bit of movement on the pin here, or maybe it's just not sitting in here equally, we have anti-walk pins. These are Wilson Combat. And the firearm, as well as the accessories, were all bought at Tombstone Tactical. They do not sponsor my channel. I haven't convinced them to be able to do it yet, but I did purchase them from Tombstone Tactical here in Phoenix. They also have one in northern Arizona. I believe it's Chinle. And I paid for all of this stuff. They did not provide it to the channel. They're not paying me. But be sure to check out Tombstone Tactical. They have really good prices on firearms and accessories, and their inventory is growing. The only thing that I wish is that they would work on their photos just a little bit better, because their photos on their products are not always accurate. Also, I won't be showing the installation of these accessories on YouTube. If you want to see that, head over to my Rumble page. So test the safety, make sure that it works. Nice and positive, short throw, 45-degree, truncated on this side, not in the way of the trigger finger or anything like that. Anti-walk pins are in here, and we'll test the trigger. And maybe you can see how weird shaped this trigger is. It's kind of got like flat right on the bottom here, curved up here. So this is going to be like a shorter pull up here, but a little bit harder. But down here, it's going to be a lighter pull, but just a little bit longer. So this is a much better feeling trigger, much better feeling safety. And maybe you've wondered what firearms have to do with DIY channels. Now you know. I do my own stuff like this. I find no reason in paying a gunsmith to install parts like this. I don't see a reason for it. They are super simple to install. When you're doing something a little bit more involved that requires like machining and stuff like that, yes, I get it, but when you're just installing stuff and putting stuff together, I don't see a need for it. I'm perfectly capable of doing stuff like that myself, and stays consistent with the channel. So I've not fired this yet, but I'm pretty excited. It feels wonderful. It's a very unique firearm. So those are the accessories and upgrades that I did to it. The upgrades were very few, just the trigger, the anti-walk pins, and the safety. The accessories are the angled grip and the sight. I may or may not put some rail covers on here, like some BCM rail covers, but it's got two M-lock slots or channels that are very close to each other, so I'd only be able to put in one of them. I may or may not put a light on it, but I don't see a need for it because it's not like I'm going to use it for those purposes. But it looks like it's going to be a very fun firearm, and there's nothing wrong with having firearms that are fun. They don't all have to serve a tactical purpose. You can have fun firearms. And so that's it for the accessories and upgrades to my new DBX57. And the installation of these parts are not specific to the DBX57. It's going to work for any sort of AR or anything like that. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to see the installation, head over to my Rumble page. You're actually allowed to see the installation there. YouTube doesn't like that information to be out there because they don't like you being free. And so we will catch you on the next project. See ya.